Hello everybody, welcome back to Drawing a Random Superhero on this wheel. Today that superhero looks like Batman, yes. I have done many Batman pieces actually, so I'm feeling right in my zone here. Making his debut on March 30th, 1939, created by Bill Finger and Bob Kane, Batman made himself known to the world in the 27th issue of Detective Comics. In early 1939, the success of Superman in Action Comics prompted editors at National Comics Publications, who would later become DC, to request more superheroes for its titles. In response, Bob Kane created The Batman. Kane's early version of Batman was extremely different from the character that we all know today. The early version of Batman wore red tights, a domino mask, and a pair of rigid wings that stuck out from his back. Once Bill Finger saw this version of Batman, Finger suggested giving the character a cowl instead of a simple domino mask, a cape instead of wings, and gloves. He also recommended removing the red sections from the original costume, giving us the first dark, gritty, and serious Batman story and suit. While his suit has not changed much in the last 85 years, there has been a shift from the skin-tight spandex of his original creation to a more armored and militaristic look. But Batman just simply isn't Batman without his utility belt. And in his utility belt, well, that's where he stores all of his tools, gadgets, and anything else the writers need to give him. He has had everything in his belt you could ever think of at some point. From the point he was introduced, Batman, he was a dark character, but there was a very long stint where he was just another goofy superhero. This led to things like the Adam West Batman. For many years, because of Adam West's Batman, Batman was seen as just another goofy guy dressed in a costume. This is when Frank Miller stepped in and created The Dark Knight Returns. The first, well, probably not first, but the most popular gritty Batman story in years. Many famous Batman stories would come to follow, and we also started to see a rise in people who were not Bruce Wayne taking up the mantle as Batman. One of the most famous stories from this period is Nightfall. In Nightfall, we see the introduction of Bane, one of Batman's most famous adversaries. The Nightfall story was released in 1939 and saw a sick, tired Bruce Wayne get crippled by Bane and have John Paul Valley take over as Batman. John Paul Valley created a new suit and was dubbed by the community as Bat, as his former and upcoming life as Azrael. Nightfall took place after one of the most influential Batman stories of all time, Death in the Family. This story saw Joker capture, torture, and kill Jason Todd, the second Robin after Dick Grayson. This is just one of the many times Joker has been a major part of a storyline. In fact, Joker has been appearing in Batman stories since April 25th, 1940, when he was introduced. The Joker is considered by many to be Batman's perfect adversary, since he is the perfect mirror image of Batman in not only personality, but also appearance. The Joker has a maniacal demeanor with a very, very colorful appearance, while Batman, he has a serious and resolute demeanor with a dark appearance. This time period of comics was also a major factor in the making of the Tim Burton movies. Ever since that first movie in 1989, Batman has had no shortage of movie adaptations. He has had 9 movies that focus on him, ranging from live action to Lego. He has also had 4 movies in a shared DC extended universe that do not include any animated projects. We will get to those later. All of the different Batman stories that range from dark and gritty to goofy and lighthearted convinced Warner Brothers to make a show based on the titular character. They ended up going to Paul Dini and Bruce Timm to create an animated kids show that followed Batman. The show was very heavily based off of the Tim Burton movies and even used some of the same music. The same music was done because they had the same composer from the 1989 Batman movie. They got Danny Elfman. This show would be named Batman, the animated series, and it would star a voice actor who would become the definitive version of Batman, Kevin Conroy. Kevin Conroy played Batman all the way from the first episode of BTAS in 1992 all the way to his tragic passing in 2022. He played Batman in every single episode of the original BTAS and the new BTAS series, and would continue to voice Batman in every episode of any other DC animated show that featured the Dark Knight. He made his way into Static Shock, Superman the Animated Series, and the Justice League show. There are technically two shows, but since they follow the same characters and it's in the same universe, I'm just going to label it as one show, the Justice League show. Kevin Conroy would also go on to voice Batman in countless movies and video games. There were even movies set in the DC animated universe that he got to star in as the Dark Knight. Video games that he has starred in as Batman range anywhere from the Arkham trilogy, which many give the credit of rewriting video games as we know them today, the Arkham trilogy. He has starred in the Lego video games, most recently Lego DC Supervillains. Kevin Conroy has played Batman once in live action, and going back to his voice roles, he has also voiced Batman, Bruce Wayne, not Batman, in the Batman Beyond animated series. This series would show young Terry McGinnis taking over the role as Batman after he breaks into the Batcave. Bruce Wayne in the show serves as kind of a Jarvis for Terry McGinnis. Bruce sits back in the chair and guides Terry through his journey as the new Batman. The character of Batman has appeared in various media aside from comic books, such as newspapers, syndicated comic strips, books, radio dramas, television, stage shows, and several theatrical feature films. The first adaptation of Batman was a daily newspaper comic strip which premiered on October 25th, 1943, the same year that the character was adapted in the 15-part serial Batman, with Lewis Wilson becoming the first actor to portray Batman on screen. While Batman had never had a radio series of his own, the character made occasional guest appearances in The Adventures of Superman, starting in 1945 on occasions when Superman voice actor Bud Collyer needed time off. A second movie serial, Batman and Robin, followed in 1949, with Robert Lowry taking over the role of Batman. The exposure provided by these adaptations during the 1940s helped make Batman a household name for millions who had never bought a comic book. In the 1964 publication of Donald Bertham's collection of short stories, Come Back, Dr. Caligari, Baltimore wrote, "The Joker's greatest triumph. Batman is portrayed for purposes of spoof as a pretentious French-speaking rich man." The original Batman television series, starring Adam West, premiered in January of 1996 on the ABC television network. Inflected with a camp sense of humor, the show became a pop culture phenomenon. In his memoir, Back to the Batcave, West notes his dislike for the term camp as it was applied to the 1960s series, opting that the show was instead a farce or lampoon, a deliberate one at that. The series ran for 120 episodes, ending in 1968. In between the first and second season of the Batman television series, the cast and crew made the theatrical film Batman in 1966. The Who recorded the theme song for the Batman show for their 1966 episode Ready Steady Who, and the Kinks even performed the same theme song on their 1967 album Live at Kelvin Hall. Adam West also appeared in character as Batman in several commercials and a 1966 U.S. government PSA for savings bonds. Despite not having an immediate continuation, the series spawned a failed pilot episode for a spin-off Batgirl television series, and decades later, the Batman 66 comic book series, which would run from 2013 to 2016. The animated Batman films, Batman Return of the Caped Crusaders and Batman vs. Two-Face, would also debut. Return of the Caped Crusaders debuting in 2016 and Batman vs. Two-Face releasing in 2017. This was the first time that Two-Face had ever been seen anywhere in any Batman 66 media. Even the mockumentary Return to the Batcave, The Misadventures of Adam and Bert in 2005. As previously stated, Batman's first cinematic appearances consisted of the 1943 serial film Batman and its 1949 sequel, Batman and Robin, which were both released by Columbia Pictures and depicted a government-backed version of Batman and Robin. Censorship at the time would not have allowed for vigilantes to be depicted as unauthorized crime fighters. The serials, especially the first ones, are notorious for their accentuation on anti-Japanese sentiments due to their World War II period setting. In 1966, 20th Century Fox released Batman's first feature-length film titled Batman, also advertised as Batman the Movie, based on and featuring most of the cast from the 1960s TV series. And then, in 1989, Warner Brothers released the feature film Batman, directed by Tim Burton and starring Michael Keaton as the title character. This film was a major success, and it was a top-grossing film of the year. But at the time, was the fifth highest-grossing film in history. Following the Tim Burton movies, who would later get a soft reboot with Val Kilmer and George Clooney, we don't talk about those movies, would come the Dark Knight trilogy. In 2005, Batman Begins was released by Warner Brothers as a reboot of the film series. Directed by Christopher Nolan and starring Christian Bale as Batman, its sequel, The Dark Knight, set the record for the highest grossing opening weekend of all time in the U.S., earning approximately $158 million. And it also became the fastest film to reach the $400 million mark in the history of American cinema. These record-breaking attendances saw The Dark Knight end as its run as the second highest domestic grossing film at the time, with $533 million, bested then only by Titanic. The film also won 2 Academy Awards, including Best Supporting Actor for the late Heath Ledger, who played the Joker. It was eventually followed by The Dark Knight Rises, which served as a conclusion to Nolan's film series that has since been coined the Dark Knight trilogy. Batman is an extremely influential character in media, as he is not only peak physical condition, being able to bench press over 1,000 pounds and still keeping up with the world's fastest sprinters, he is also in peak mental condition. Batman is able to deduce some of the hardest crime scenes faster than even the Gotham City police force can. Batman is also able to, in some interpretations, build his own gadgets and vehicles. This is largely due to the fact that his alter ego, Bruce Wayne, is a billionaire. Batman is a huge part of current pop culture, as he is one of the greatest examples of just an ordinary man doing everything he can to clean up his city. And he has trained and trained. He has pushed himself to his limit. And he has become so good at crime fighting that even the criminals see him as almost supernatural. Many people say Batman is remarkable and one of the most relatable superheroes in the fact that he is, in fact, just a complicated human man. Instead of being a superhero to admire, Batman is a superhero that inspires because he teaches audiences that it doesn't take a perfect person or a superman to do good things. One of the first traits that people think of when they think of a hero is bravery. No other superhero exemplifies this characteristic quite like Batman. Fear is a key component of Bruce Wayne's transformation into Batman, giving audiences a deeper sense of connectivity and empathy for him, placing him in the role of the anti-hero. Batman breaks away from archetypal superhero because he is not defined by fearlessness, but he is defined by his ability to overcome and embrace his deepest, darkest fears, such as in Batman Begins, young Bruce Wayne falls into a well that is filled with bats, leading him to develop a bat phobia. His crime-fighting persona and bat suit was a symbolic choice that showed him become the very thing he feared most. He says in the movie, and I quote, "Bats frighten me. It's time criminals share my dread." And there you have it, the Batman.